She was laughing. That stupid, flirty, head-tilted kind of laugh I used to think was charming. But now, watching her from across the restaurant, hidden behind a dim-lit booth, half my whiskey gone, I realized it wasn't charming. It was rehearsed, scripted, something she used on whoever had her attention this month. Tonight, that man was sitting across from her in a blue tailored suit, confidently sipping wine like he owned her. Hell, maybe he did. I had the envelope in my hand. Smooth paper. Clean edges. Inside, the document that would change both our lives. No more pretending. No more smiling for photos, pretending to be happy. No more lies from Rachel. No more coming home to her fake kisses and shallow excuses. No more of her whispering, "I love you," while her phone buzzed face down on the table. I watched her touch the guy's hand. Bold. Right here in public. No shame. I stared at her like a man watching the end of his own film, knowing the credits were coming, but still hoping for some impossible twist. They were sitting at our spot. That hit me harder than I expected. Booth 17 at Caravaggio's. The place we celebrated our 5th anniversary. The place I proposed. Now she's here with him. Laughing. Sipping. Twirling her wine like a villainess in some low-budget drama. I didn't blink when the waitress passed by. "Excuse me," I said, handing her the envelope. "Could you deliver this to the woman in the red dress? Booth 17? She took it without a second glance, just like Rachel took our marriage, casually, like a chore. I didn't stop her. Just leaned back and watched. That moment felt like slow motion. Rachel saw the letter arrive. Her smile froze. Her fingers twitched as she opened it, probably expecting some romantic nonsense from a secret admirer. Then she read the first 3 words, "petition for divorce." And her world cracked. Her date leaned over, confused. She said something, I couldn't hear it, but the way her shoulders stiffened, the way her eyes darted around like a hunted animal, she knew I was close. She could feel me. I stood up slowly. She spotted me then. Our eyes locked. And I smiled. The exact smile she gave me 2 months ago when she said she was working late at the office, while her phone was still connected to our cloud account and uploaded a photo to the shared folder by mistake. Her legs tangled with his in a hotel bed. Candlelight. Cheap wine. Him holding her neck like she belonged to him. That's the night I stopped being a husband. Tonight, I became something else. Rachel stood up. Panic splashed across her face. "Jason," she hissed, trying to keep her voice low. The lover turned to look at me. Arrogant. Smug. Like I was some side note in their fairy tale. "Enjoy your evening," I said, nodding at both of them. "You're paying for the drinks. Consider it a celebration." I walked out before the explosion. Let them burn behind me. Outside, the air hit different. Cold, sharp, alive. I lit a cigarette, a habit I dropped when I met her. Funny how betrayal makes you resurrect things you buried for love. My phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I didn't reply. She could scream, cry, blame, twist it however she wanted. But the divorce was real. And for the first time in years, so was my peace. My phone didn't stop buzzing all night. Rachel called, texted, left voicemails that ranged from screaming to sobbing to dead silence. I didn't answer a single one. Not because I didn't want to, because I knew if I heard her voice, even now, a piece of me might still want to believe her. And that piece had to die tonight. I drove aimlessly for a while, city lights smearing across the windshield like a blurry memory. I ended up at the beach. The one we used to go to when we first started dating. I remember her in a hoodie, barefoot in the sand, pretending to be cold just so I'd pull her close. I used to think those moments were real, that she was real. Now I wondered how many of them were just auditions for the role she wanted me to believe in. By the time I got home, it was almost midnight. The house was dark, but I knew she'd show up. And she did. At 12:41 a.m., the front door slammed. I stayed on the couch. I wanted her to find me calm. Still. Unshaken. Let her storm. Let her perform. "You're out of your ing mind," she snapped, heels clicking hard against the tile floor. A public stunt? A divorce letter at dinner? Are you serious? I didn't look at her. "You and your boyfriend looked like you were having fun. Don't do this, Jason. I'm not doing anything. Just giving you what you clearly wanted." She scoffed, tossing her purse on the floor. "You don't even know what's going on." "Oh, I know enough. I've got the photos. I've got the timestamps. The hotel receipts. The late nights that weren't at work. You think I'm stupid?" Her eyes darted. Her jaw clenched. "It's not what you think. Don't insult me. It was a mistake. How many times? 10? 20? Every Thursday and some Fridays? That's a lot of mistakes, Rachel. Silence. She finally sat down, like she ran out of steam, but her expression changed. Cold. Calculating. You're not innocent either, Jason. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Do enlighten me. You were never enough. Always working. Always tired. You stopped looking at me like I mattered. There it was. The gaslight. The flip. The classic narcissist twist. So you decided to let someone else crawl into our bed. That's your solution. She didn't flinch. At least he made me feel alive. That one stung. I stood up, looked down at her like I was looking at a stranger. You should have told me you wanted out. I would have respected the honesty. But you wouldn't have begged, she said flatly. That sentence alone told me everything I needed to know about the woman I married. You're sick, I muttered. She laughed. Actually laughed. You think you're the victim here? You think you're some hero now, handing out divorce papers like it's a dramatic movie scene? You're pathetic. I might be pathetic, I said, moving toward the stairs. But I'm no longer your husband. And that's the best decision I've ever made. She stood up quickly. You'll regret this. Nobody will ever love you like I did. I turned. God, I hope not. And I walked upstairs, left her in the kitchen like a ghost haunting a place she no longer belonged. I heard her crying later. Maybe it was real. Maybe it wasn't. I didn't care anymore. I had finally stopped caring. And that was the most powerful thing I'd felt in years. The next morning, she was gone. Not a note. Not a text. Just silence, and her side of the closet, wiped clean. Like she never lived here. Like she never spent 6 years promising me forever. I poured myself some coffee, black and bitter, the way I liked it before I started making it sweeter for her. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty seat across from me. My phone buzzed again. A message from her mom. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Talk to Rachel. You two can fix this. Fix this? Rachel didn't trip and fall into another man's bed. She built a double life, one lie at a time, while I was too blind to see it. I didn't reply. If her family was so desperate to believe in her fantasy, let them live in it. I was done being the supporting actor in a story where I was always second to her desires. I spent the day gathering everything she left behind, scraps of a lie dressed up as love. Perfume bottles, wedding photos, love notes she once wrote to keep up appearances. I dumped them all in a box. Not to burn. Not to smash. Just to get it out of my space. I wasn't going to destroy anything. That would mean I still cared. Around noon, I got a message from an unknown number. You humiliated her. You didn't have to do that. No name, but I knew who it was. Her lover. I stared at the screen for a while, the rage clawing up my throat. I wanted to send a novel back. I wanted to remind him I had the receipts, the photos, the power to ruin more than just Rachel's image. But I didn't. I typed one sentence. Tell her next time to choose someone smarter. I left it at that. That night, I met up with my brother, Matt. We sat at this old bar we used to hit up in college. I hadn't seen him in a while. I always made excuses. Busy with work, Rachel planned something. Not tonight. Man, he said after I told him everything, I never liked her. But I didn't say anything. You looked happy, and I figured I'd be the bad guy if I opened my mouth. I nodded slowly. Maybe I needed to crash hard to finally see the truth. Better now than 10 years and 2 kids later. He wasn't wrong. It could have been worse. She could have taken more from me. I sent her the divorce letter while she was out with him, I said, sipping my beer. You should have seen her face. Matt laughed hard. Damn. Cold move. I respect it. It wasn't even about revenge, I admitted. It was just closure. I needed her to know I saw her. Really saw her. He leaned back. Well, she's seen the real you now too. And she can't control it anymore. That hit me. For the first time in years, I wasn't under her thumb, trying to prove my worth or calm her tantrums. I wasn't afraid she'd withhold love or punish me with distance. I wasn't trying to win her anymore. I was free. The next few days blurred by, but I didn't feel numb. I felt lighter. There was grief, sure, but not for her. For the version of myself I lost in that marriage. The man who kept compromising, shrinking, apologizing for things he didn't do just to keep her calm. That guy was gone. And I was starting to meet the man who replaced him. The official court date came quicker than I expected. I stood outside the courthouse that morning in a charcoal suit I hadn't worn since my promotion, back when Rachel still acted proud of me. Back when she wasn't too busy working late to come celebrate. She showed up 20 minutes late, wearing a white blazer, like she was trying to play innocent. Her lawyer stood next to her, straight-faced, focused. Meanwhile, she gave me a glance that was pure venom, like I was the one who betrayed her. No guilt in her eyes. Just annoyance. When the judge asked if we wanted mediation, I looked straight at him and said, "No. I've made peace with my decision." Rachel rolled her eyes, muttering something to her lawyer. I didn't ask. I didn't care. We signed. We swore. We left. Outside, she finally spoke. "So that's it? You're just gonna throw away everything we built?" I tilted my head. "We didn't build anything. I built. You broke." She didn't flinch. Just crossed her arms. "He treats me better than you ever did." "I'm sure he does. He hasn't known you long enough to get tired of the act." "You're such a—" "Don't." I cut her off. "Don't try to pick a fight. You don't get to win this one. You lost the second you thought I'd be too weak to walk away." Her mouth stayed open, but no words came out. I turned and walked to my car. I could feel her watching, probably trying to convince herself she still had power over me. But the truth was, her spell had finally broken. She was just another stranger with a familiar face. The funny thing is, people started reaching out. Old friends I lost touch with. Coworkers who always gave me a look like they knew something I didn't. Even my mom called. She never liked Rachel but kept quiet out of respect. "Sometimes," she told me, "it takes a wildfire to clear the deadwood. Maybe now you'll grow something better." That line stayed with me. I started running again. Hit the gym like I used to. Found my appetite for life, not just food. Slept better. Laughed more. Even reconnected with a few people from before Rachel, before the lies, the walking on eggshells, the quiet erosion of my soul. One night, I found myself sitting on the balcony, whiskey in hand, thinking about everything. Not with sadness, just clarity. I realized I had been married to a fantasy. Not a woman. A performance. One that demanded constant applause but gave no encore. And when I finally stopped clapping, she turned to the next audience. But me? I didn't need to play a role anymore. I just had to live. And God, it felt good. A few weeks after the divorce, I got a package delivered to my door. No sender listed. Just a black box with my name scrawled across the front in Rachel's handwriting. I almost threw it straight into the trash, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a silver bracelet I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. She used to wear it every day, swore it was her favorite thing I ever gave her. Now it lay at the bottom of the box like garbage. No note. No explanation. Just a message, loud and clear. "I don't need anything that reminds me of you." I laughed. Out loud. It wasn't bitterness. It was relief. I grabbed the bracelet, walked straight to the pawn shop down the street, and sold it without hesitation. Used the cash to buy a brand new pair of running shoes and booked myself a weekend away in the mountains. First solo trip in years. First time I felt like I was doing something entirely for me. The cabin was small, quiet, tucked between trees that whispered secrets in the wind. I brought a journal, something I hadn't done since college, and just wrote. Not poetry. Not stories. Just truth. Pages of it. Ugly, unfiltered, burning honesty. I wrote about the first time I noticed Rachel pulling away. The business dinners she never invited me to. The cold goodnights. The weird passwords on her phone. The fake tears when I questioned anything. I wrote about the guilt she planted in me like seeds, convincing me I was paranoid, controlling, insecure. When really, I was just watching my marriage rot from the inside. One line I wrote stood out. "She didn't destroy me. She revealed me." That night, I slept with the windows open and dreamed of nothing. No regrets. No nightmares. Just silence. When I got back home, everything felt smaller, simpler. I started changing things, repainting the bedroom, donating her furniture, even switching out the mattress. It wasn't just about removing her, it was about reclaiming space. My space. Then one afternoon, I bumped into her. Grocery store. Of all places. She was with him. Same guy. Same smug grin. She saw me first and froze. He didn't recognize me until she said my name under her breath. I nodded at both of them and kept walking. She called out, "Jason, wait." I didn't stop. She jogged after me. Alone. He didn't follow. "Can we talk?" she asked. I stared at her. She looked tired. A little hollow. "Why?" I didn't think you'd move on so fast." That sentence. That damn sentence. "You left me long before I left you," I said. "I'm just catching up." Her face twisted. "He doesn't make me feel the way you did." I shrugged. "Then I guess you made a mistake." No," I said, cutting her off again, calm as ever. "You don't get to rewrite this. You lied. You cheated. You gaslit. I gave you every chance, and you burned every one of them. Go live with your choice." She didn't cry. She didn't argue. Just stood there, biting her lip, pretending like I might change my mind. I didn't. I walked out of that store with my head high, my soul clean, and my dinner for one. And it tasted like freedom. That night, I got a message from a number I hadn't seen in years. Heard about everything. Can't believe she did that to you. Want to catch up sometime? It was Ava, my college ex. The one who got away, or maybe the one I let go for the wrong reasons. We hadn't spoken in nearly a decade. She was married then, last I heard. Or maybe divorced now, who knows? I didn't reply right away. Not because I wasn't interested, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't looking for someone to fill a hole. I was learning to stand alone. The next few days were strange. Peaceful, but strange. My phone stayed quiet. No more calls from Rachel, no surprise texts, no drama. Her absence felt less like a wound and more like healing. And then the unexpected happened. A certified letter showed up at my door. Not from Rachel. From her lover, or rather, ex-lover now. Apparently, she had lied to him too. Told him I abused her emotionally, that she'd been trying to get out for years but was afraid. He found out it was all a fabrication when he read her old emails. She'd painted him as a backup plan, just in case Jason doesn't cave. He apologized in a single paragraph. Said he didn't know. That if he had, he'd never have touched her. I didn't respond. Why would I? That mess was theirs now. Later that week, I ran into Rachel's sister, Emily, at the gas station. She approached me cautiously. "Jason, I know you probably don't want to hear anything from anyone in our family," she began. I didn't interrupt. "But I just want you to know." I told her she was destroying the only good man she ever had. I told her the night you sent that letter to the restaurant, she had it coming. I looked at her and saw something Rachel never had: remorse. Sincerity. Truth. "She doesn't even cry about you," Emily added. "She cries because she thought you'd beg her to come back." That was all I needed to hear. I nodded. "Thank you for telling me." When I drove off, I realized something big had shifted inside me. I didn't just survive her. I'd outgrown her. She was a chapter I'd finished. A painful one, yes, but not my whole story. And every new page was mine to write. A month later, I took a spontaneous trip to New Orleans. I needed noise, color, people who didn't know my name. I wandered through jazz bars, back alley cafes, sat beside strangers, and let the music drown out every echo of her voice in my head. One night, I ended up at a rooftop bar. There was a girl singing, nothing fancy, just a voice and a soul. She had curly brown hair, a chip guitar, and eyes that carried stories deeper than mine. When she sang, it wasn't polished, it was real, unapologetically raw, and it hit me harder than any breakup ever did. Her name was Claire. We talked. For hours. About everything but love. No past wounds. No fake smiles. Just two people letting the night be whatever it wanted to be. She didn't ask what brought me there. I didn't ask if she lived here. It didn't matter. For once, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to be who someone needed me to be. When I walked her to her car, she turned and said, "You look like someone who just got out of a cage." I smirked. "Funny. That's exactly how I feel." "I hope you never step back inside one," she said, and drove off. I never saw her again. But that one night, it stuck with me. Not because I fell in love, but because I finally knew what freedom tasted like. Back home, I donated the last of Rachel's leftover things. The dusty box in the garage, the winter coat she never took, the perfume bottle still hiding in the bathroom drawer. Gone. I changed my number. I didn't send it to anyone who didn't matter. One morning, I passed by our old favorite bakery and saw her car parked outside. I didn't stop. I didn't look. I just smiled to myself, rolled down the window, and let the wind carry away every piece of the man who used to wait for her. That version of me, the one who begged for her attention, who thought being loyal meant tolerating betrayal, he died the moment I handed that divorce letter to the waitress. And the man I became? He learned to breathe again, not to survive her, but to live without her. Months passed. The silence that once felt loud was now comforting. My home didn't feel empty anymore. It felt mine. My routine wasn't haunted by her perfume or her footsteps. I no longer checked my phone expecting chaos. Peace stopped being a stranger and started feeling like a roommate I should have let in years ago. One afternoon, while walking through a small street market downtown, I saw a couple, young, happy, playful. The way she looked at him reminded me of how Rachel used to look at me when we first met. Before the rot set in. Before the lies were her masked down to the bone. I didn't feel bitter watching them. I didn't envy them either. I just hoped they'd never get where we ended up. Back home, I opened my laptop, logged into an old folder labeled Us. I hovered over it for a few seconds. There were hundreds of photos, videos, texts I had once saved like they were treasure. Now they felt like remnants of a war I barely survived. Delete. No hesitation. Gone in seconds, like the love we pretended to have. Later that night, I sat on the back porch with a glass of scotch and the kind of quiet that doesn't ask questions. And I started writing, not in a journal this time. Not therapy. Just words I needed to release. I wrote down the truth. That I loved her. That I gave her everything. That I wanted it to work more than I wanted to breathe some days. But I also wrote that she destroyed that love with every lie. Every eye roll. Every half-hearted kiss she gave me after giving her whole body to someone else. And then I wrote what I'd learned. Never beg to be chosen. Never accept breadcrumbs from someone who feasts behind your back. And never let someone confuse your loyalty for weakness. I folded that page, placed it in the drawer where I keep things that remind me who I am. Not who I was with her, but who I became without her. This story started with a dinner. It ended with a letter. And in between was a man who lost everything only to find himself again. She can keep her lies, her lover, her empty victories. I have something better. Myself.